everybody. So it is Tuesday. It's 3 p.m. And believe it or not, it is a brand new year. Have you gotten used to it yet? I haven't gotten used to it yet. I'm ready for it, but I don't think I've gotten used to it. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about how to start your year strong. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for a really strong, positive year. And to make that happen, I invited a great guest to talk to us about habits and how to make habits that we can keep and the strategies for keeping them. So before we start, I do want to let everybody know that's watching this live. Please let us know you're out there. Tell us what you like, what you think, what's going on with you and habits in the comments. And if you're watching us on the replay, not the live stream, then same thing. I want to hear from you too. So here we go. You ready? It's time to start talking about how to make this year your best year when it comes to habits. And I'm going to introduce the lovely Rachel Sirota. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, how are you?
Thanks for coming to play with me.
Thanks for having me. This is so fun.
I was telling Rachel, it's just that kind of year. We start out with technical difficulties. So hopefully that was my bump for the whole year. I'm going to take it that way.
You're done.
So, Rachel, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name is Rachel, and I am the owner of Ford Family Essentials. But even more important than my business, I'm mom to 3 amazing little kiddos who, in this conversation, I think are going to come up quite a bit because they have taught me so much about habits. But in my business life, I like to help people who are feeling overwhelmed or a little out of control. And I like to help them to create an easy to follow daily routine using essential oils and other natural products, as well as healthy habits to put them back in control naturally.
I love that you said healthy habits, because we're going to talk about, what the strategies are for creating habits and building habits that are easy to keep. But I don't think anybody ever says, man, I'm really struggling to keep that bad habit of mine.
That is true.
Every bad habit seems to stick around and it's so easy.
Yep. It's just a little bit of how we're wired.
Bad habits come with that shot of dopamine, right? It's usually the stuff that's either exciting or bad for you or all that things.
Yeah.
All those things.
There are ways to tie good habits to the shot of dopamine also. There's ways to do it. You just have to be a little bit more intentional.
That's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And I think anybody listening is used to the vicious resolution cycle, right? I think we do it deliberately. Yeah. We make the resolution on the 30th of December so that we can pay lip service to it on the 1st of January. And then 2 weeks, 2 hours, 2 minutes later, we're like, oh, it's a resolution. Of course, I'm going to break it.
Yep.
So tell me why you like habits better than resolutions.
Well, I mean, you just said it, right? Like resolutions set us up for failure from the beginning. First of all, we tend to make these like grand declaration type resolutions. And, so maybe it's, I'm going to lose this many pounds, or, I'm going to make this much money, or who knows, right? And 1, they're these huge lofty things. And 2, they're often a little bit out of our control. Like I can control my habits, but I can't necessarily control the results. So if I'm going to say, oh, my New Year's resolution is I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Well, that's a little bit out of my control, right? But what is in my control is what I eat and how much I exercise and what I do during my day. And so habits give us all of the control back, and we can break things down to those little micro habits that feel small, but have the power to move the needle a lot in the long run.
That's awesome. Do you find that it's really important to really want to do it?
Yes. But willpower isn't going to be enough. Right? Like there's actually a book called Willpower Doesn't Work, and it doesn't, right? Because eventually life is going to kind of catch up with us, right? So we have to really dig in a little bit past just wanting to do it and really get into why it matters and what happens if we don't do it. That's the key, right? So let's play it out, right? To use that same analogy of healthy eating. What happens, like eating McDonald's once, no big deal. But what happens if that's your habit and you're eating McDonald's every single day? Like you stop every single day and get a Big Mac. After a year, where are you going to be? After 5 years, where are you going to be? And then you start thinking the heart disease, the diabetes, the chronic pain, the medical bills that you can't afford. You don't have the energy to go outside and play with your kids. And the picture that you paint of that life is one that you don't want. And that's really powerful. So I always ask people, what happens if you don't do this?
It's interesting that what do people say back to you?
I've gotten all sorts of responses. Sometimes people will say, well, it has to happen, right? Like it's non-negotiable. And in that case, I always push them a little bit more. But actually, let's talk about it. Even though it's hard and it's painful and maybe we don't want to think about it, let's actually talk about what happens if we don't do it. Let's play that out. Other people kind of go in the opposite direction and they don't even want to they don't even want to go there, right? Like they don't even want to think about that because it's hard. Because when we start painting those pictures, it puts us in an uncomfortable, really vulnerable state. And so it's a challenge, but that's the thing that's going to keep us going oftentimes when we don't want to, right? When you're like, I just want to have a lazy day. I just want to stay in my pajamas and like eat junk food all day. We've got to have those things that keep us going forward. And oftentimes it's not wanting something to happen. That's a big key.
That's really interesting because it's sort of like, what's the carrot, right? So are you motivated by the positive end result, or are you motivated by the possibility of the negative ramification?
Yep. And it's got to be a little both, right? There's got to be a little bit of both in there. And I also think it's important when we're choosing our habits to choose the right habits, right? We need to choose things that are challenging enough that we can get that little rush of dopamine when we do it, but not things that are so challenging that it feels impossible, right? So if you're used to eating fast food every day, then probably saying that your new habit is you're going to eat raw vegan is like setting yourself up for failure. Like
maybe a little bit, yeah.
That's too far. Right. So instead, maybe you can say, like, my kids, we pick habits that we're going to do. And so right now, my kids are working on a habit of eating more different colors of fruits and vegetables. So they're trying to eat 5 different colors every day in their fruits and vegetables.
That's awesome.
It's really fun. Right. And it's really doable. Even in our cold New York climate, we can find 5 different colors. Like you could find way more if you were in Florida, but even in New York, you can find 5. And it's accessible and it's doable and it still allows them to like be kids and eat, crackers and peanut butter also. But like this morning, my son was packing his lunch and he's like, I need an orange thing. Carrots. I'll have carrots for snack when I get home today. And so he's already planning to come home and have carrots as his snack. And that's an awesome choice for a kid to make.
It's an awesome choice for a kid to even think about.
Right. But that's a habit that would allow somebody to move in the direction of healthier eating without being so extreme that you're setting yourself up for failure.
So it's interesting because when you were talking about that, I was kind of thinking, because you had said make sure that it's attainable or manageable, but the thing that I wonder sometimes is if people, when they're trying to figure out what it is they want to do, if they're figuring out what they want to do, or if they're figuring out what they're supposed to do.
That is for sure. I mean, that's a big issue in all sorts of areas of our lives. Like we could probably write a whole college course on that. Like that's a big thing, right? In so many areas of our lives. And it is. And a lot of it does take a level of self-awareness, right? It's easier to create a New Year's resolution and just basically like pull something out of the air and kind of know that you're not going to stick to it. It's a lot harder to choose habits and then actually work on creating them. And there are skills and strategies in terms of how you can create habits. It's more than just like, oh, this is going to be my new habit. But there's thought and introspection, and that's where it has to all start. And yeah, that's a little harder.
For everybody who's watching us live, let us know in the comments what you think. If you've got something that you're trying to do, or if you've got strategies that you use to make things happen. But so you were talking about strategies, so go there. So let's talk about what it means to actually, well, first off, is there something that people need to do to sort of identify what kind of habits to pick up? So because my world is health and wellness, right? I think in terms of 5 categories that I break health and wellness down into. So one is nutrition. And so within nutrition, there are some examples of habits. Could be maybe remembering to take your vitamins every day. How many people have bottles of supplements sitting on their counter that they don't actually take, right? Do you have a camera in my house? No, I just talked to a lot of people. So maybe it's take your supplements. Maybe it's drink more water. So maybe we should be drinking whatever our body weight is, half of our body weight in ounces of water. So if you weighed 150 pounds, it's 75 ounces of water every day. So maybe you need to drink more water. Maybe it's eating more colors of fruits and vegetables, like for my kids. Maybe it's remembering to eat breakfast at home instead of stopping for coffee and a donut on the way to work. Right? So there's some different habits. So I would say choose one habit in the nutrition category. Then the next category is in terms of exercise and movement. So that doesn't mean you have to become a gym rat, but we all need to move our bodies in some way. So maybe it's go for a walk. Maybe it's do a yoga video. Maybe it is go to the gym. Maybe it's, run up and down your stairs 10 times, whatever, right? Choose a habit that is centered around exercise and movement. So choose one from that category. Then the third category is going to be in terms of rest and stress management. So maybe it's turn off all your electronics by 10 p.m. so you can get a good night's sleep. I know, crazy, right? Maybe it's 11 p.m., whatever works. Maybe it's spend time reading every day. Maybe it's diffusing essential oils. Maybe it's spending time out in nature, because nature is so good for stress. Not when it's 12 degrees outside, but like on a normal day. Whatever you kind of need to do. Maybe it's taking a relaxing bath. I don't know. So one thing from that category.
Then the next category, this is a hard one, is something that helps you remove toxins from your life. So we are all, anything that we're breathing in or putting on our skin can impact our body. So if you have all sorts of like scented candles, Glade plugins, air fresheners, fabric softeners, maybe your habit for the next few weeks is to remove one of those from your home each day. If you're not sure, there's some great apps like Think Dirty that you can go and scan your products and it will tell you how toxic it is. So you can go through your house and check your shampoo and your toothpaste and your dish soap and all of that. Maybe you're drinking some lemon water because that's so good at helping flush toxins out of our bodies. Maybe one thing I've been doing is dry brushing, which is basically like brushing your skin, and it helps to helps your lymphatic system, which is removing toxins from your body. So maybe that's a habit. That's one that I'm working on now, is dry brushing every day. And then the last category is what I call informed self-care, or being proactive in your care. So instead of waiting until you get sick to then do something, what are some habits that you can do now to keep your body as healthy as possible? Obviously, I think in terms largely of essential oils for things like that, but there's things outside of the realm of essential oils that could work for that as well. Maybe it's starting to go to a chiropractor, or maybe it's getting regular massage or acupuncture, things like that as well. So those are all, I try to choose from different categories because it's less overwhelming that way. Right? If I chose everything from nutrition, it might feel like a lot. Like, okay, I've got to drink more water and eat more greens and eat breakfast at home and not drink coffee. Like, that's a lot. And so I might have more trouble with that. So if I just choose one thing related to nutrition to focus on, it's a little bit more manageable. So that's one strategy that I like to use. And then the second is called habit tracking, which is basically, I like to choose about 3 to 5 habits to work on at a given time. And so each day that you do that habit, you get to color in a little box. And there's all sorts of habit trackers out there. You can Google them. They're on Pinterest. You can buy fancy ones on Etsy. You can make your own. Doesn't matter. But basically, every time you do it, you get to check something off or color in a box. And that's where the hit of dopamine comes in, because it's really fun, even for adults, to go and color in a box and give yourself that little reward. Like, hey, I did my habit. I get to color in my box. And if you miss a day, it's okay, because then you also get to see in the aggregate that you did it most of the days. And so you don't get down on yourself. So you can celebrate successes. And then the third strategy I love is called habit stacking, which is when you tie a new habit to an old habit that you already do. So maybe every morning, the first thing you do when you get up is you go and you turn on the coffee pot. So you're not going to forget to do that. You do it every day. So maybe you're going to leave a personal development book right next to your coffee maker. And while the coffee is brewing, you're going to read 10 pages of a good book. And so now you just, where am I going to find the time in my day? Oh, I just found it, right? And you just tied it to a habit that you already do, that's already a part of your routine, that you're not going to forget. And then you added a new habit. Or maybe you brush your teeth every day. So keep those supplements right next to your toothpaste and take your vitamins when you brush your teeth.
Before though.
Yeah. But tie them together is the point.
Those are like really, really good ideas. And they work for habits outside of that space too, outside of the health and wellness space.
Absolutely. They work. I do a similar type of thing with my business as well. So maybe this month I want to focus on, following up with customers who I haven't talked to in a long time. So I try every day to check in with 2 people that I haven't spoken to in 3 months or more. And so that becomes part of my habits. And I work on creating the time and the space in my day for that. So you can come up with similar sort of healthy business habits as much as healthy lifestyle habits.
one of the things that you said, because you said when you're filling in the boxes, you can see that you filled in more than you haven't.
Yeah.
That's the how to deal with self-sabotage, right?
Yep.
That's the deal with how to get
Totally.
past it.
Totally. And it also means that you can give yourself some grace, right? So if you have a day where like whatever happens, maybe it's just really cold outside, and even though you promised yourself you were going to go for a walk every day, like you're just not, you can give yourself that grace, right? Or maybe you just whatever, you woke up feeling a little bit under the weather and you just want to spend a day in the pajamas on the couch and like not worrying about healthy habits. Like fine. Because so this was my habit tracker in December. And so you can see like it was only the first 3 weeks. So disregard the last week. But you can see like I wasn't perfect. There was plenty of things that I did and I didn't do. But overall, there's more boxes filled in than boxes that are empty. And so I consider that a win.
I love that. I think one of the things that sometimes can be off-putting, especially to someone who really hasn't tried to do this, right? And I can raise my hand for some of that too. But I think we, as humans, we really do like to say, today I've decided I'm cleaning my whole house, right? And you start and you're like, okay, I cleaned the sink. It was gross. I need to sit down and have a cup of coffee, right? Yep. So sometimes, so I love the idea of putting it into small bite-sized chunks that you can feel happy about, right? Yep. Like, wait, you cleaned the sink. That's amazing.
You win.
Yay! But the other thing sometimes can be looking at that, oh my God, it's the whole month, or oh my God, it's the whole week. One of the things that I love to do when I have something that stretches out, it's something I have to do every day, is create a fan fold, right? So it goes this way. So it's not like that chunked month calendar that you're used to, but make it long and make it a fan fold so that you're not looking at the whole month until you need to look at the whole month.
Yep. And that's why I say, like, I usually don't advocate for going down the Pinterest rabbit hole, but there's so many habit trackers. Find the one that you feel like resonates with you, even to the point of the one that like looks pretty to you. Because if it looks pretty and you like it, then you're going to be happy to have it in a space where you see it all the time. And it's going to bring like a smile to your face when you look at it. And so you're going to be more likely to pay attention to it. For me, I can't have one that's tucked inside a journal because then I'll just leave the journal closed. And if it's out of sight, out of mind, and like, I'll have to deal with that. So I keep mine hanging on the refrigerator where I see it like 800 times a day.
Well, that's really interesting because other people see it 800 times a day too.
Yes. And so our whole family has habit trackers hanging up right now.
So that was where I was going to be. So accountability coaches, people in on it. Like, is that something that you think is a positive thing?
Totally. And I don't think it needs to be a coach. All coaches out there don't hate me. But I think that like my kids are freaking awesome accountability partners. You know, like,
well, yeah, because they get to say, Mom, you didn't fill that in the box.
And so one of the habits that's up on my tracker now, is I'm trying to close all 3 rings on my Apple Watch. And so at the end of the day, my kids are like, Mommy, how you doing on your rings? And I'm like, oh, you know, I didn't get all my move ring. And they'll be like, all right, let's go run around a little bit so we can help you. And they're happy to like run around the house with me for a little bit so I can get my move ring to close. So I think you can find accountability literally anywhere. It can be in a friend, it can be in a spouse, it can be in a kid, it can be in a stranger who you meet just because they have a similar goal. Like you can find accountability if you are just open to looking for it.
And then you have to be, again, I think it circles back to you have to be in a space where it's something you really want to achieve.
Yep.
I think you were on the call with me yesterday. a friend of ours, Amy Gabor, was doing a presentation, and one of the things he challenged everybody to do is to get uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that when I knew we were heading into this conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's always the uncomfortable stuff
Mm-hmm.
that's hardest to build that momentum
Yep.
and to set those habits on.
Yep. Yep. And there is definitely something to be said with getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. No, I just dropped something on the floor. Sorry.
Like, you just dropped the mic, people. That's what
There you
did.
go. That was it. It was actually an essential oil. It's fine. Yeah, you do. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable because that's where change comes from. But I'm a huge fan of the book, The Slight Edge. Do you know that one?
I don't know that one.
So it's one of my favorites, especially for somebody who's getting started on this journey, because it's all about how the little things that are easy to do and easy not to do make the most difference. And if we're not yet comfortable with being uncomfortable, the slight edge is a really helpful approach to things. And so we understand, for example, taking out the garbage, right? You don't take out the garbage one day and you're like, no big deal. It made no difference in my life that I did not take out the garbage today. Don't take out the garbage for a week. Maybe your kitchen starts to stink. Don't take out the garbage for a month. You've probably got like bugs and rodents. Don't take out the garbage for a year and you can't live there anymore, right? And so every choice we make throughout our day is easy to do, easy not to do. And they're either moving us in the direction we want to go or away from where we want to go. Everything we do. And so when we can start giving ourselves credit for those little decisions, it makes it a lot easier.
That is such awesome advice because we end up, I think, sometimes looking at the mountain.
Yeah.
And thinking, I have to move the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to move the mountain.
Yep.
But the mountain isn't going to get moved in a day. But what can get moved in a day is a bucket of dirt.
Yep. Yep.
Right? So eventually, the mountain will shift.
Yep.
But only by buckets of dirt at a time.
Right. And we have to understand that that's the way things work. And so even, it's the same, right? You go to the gym one time and you're not going to see any difference in your body, right? You eat one salad, you're not going to feel any different. Every choice we make is easy to do, easy not to do. And if we can just start making more of those choices in the direction of wherever it is we want to go, whether it's relationships, our physical health, our emotional health, our business, our finances, whatever it is, what are those little choices that we can make throughout the day? So when my watch says, hey, reminder, it's time to stand, it's easy to ignore it. Who cares? What if I don't stand up? But now, because I'm super conscious about closing those rings, because I know my kids will give me a hard time, I'm like, okay. And I get up and do a few laps around the room. So my watch gives me credit for standing up. And over time, that matters, right? Over time, that one choice to stand up compounded over making the same choice and the same choice and the same choice, it starts to make a big difference.
That is my favorite word. I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but a long time ago, someone said to me, I stopped making decisions because decisions are set in stone. I make choices because they're fluid and I can make a new one every minute.
Yep.
Every second.
Yep.
Like, just because I chose it today doesn't mean I have to choose it tomorrow. And that to me is so powerful.
Yep.
Because a habit isn't set in stone either. Right? So you start today and you say, I definitely need to make sure that I'm eating, spinach every day. And then you're like, well, wait a minute. I don't like spinach that much. Really, what I was trying to do was get more greens in my diet.
Right. And that's
so
it's
about giving yourself the grace to understand what it is you really need.
Totally. So I tend to do my habit tracking in 3-week cycles, partly because there is some research. I'm not sure how it's not totally there, but some research about 21 days, you probably heard it. Some people say it takes 21 days to build a habit. Other people say like not so much. It takes way more than that. But more, I like 3 weeks because it's a time frame that I can wrap my head around. Like it feels like a decent enough chunk of time, but it's not so long that it like stretches on forever. So I set habits with my kids at the beginning of January, and my daughter initially put meditation as one of her habits. She was going to do a daily meditation, and she was struggling with it. She just wasn't in the mood to do a guided meditation. Every time, you know, I was like, hey, Molly, did you do your meditation today? And she's like, I don't want to. I'm not into it. But what she was really into doing was yoga. And so we just switched it, because whether it was meditation or yoga, either way, it was sort of for her mental grounding, stress relieving, anxiety relieving, and yoga accomplished it just as well as meditation did. And if she was happier doing a kid's yoga video than listening to a guided meditation, great, no problem. So we just crossed it out, wrote in yoga, and she's happy as could be.
Which again is so life affirming, because there's nothing worse than feeling like you've failed at setting your own habit.
Totally.
Right. Totally. And we started out by saying, you know, that whole resolution horror cycle that we put ourselves on, right, is so deadening. Yep. It's so destructive, because you just, it's like, well, one more year, I didn't achieve what I said I was going to achieve. I can't do it. Knowing when you start that everything is an opportunity to grow.
Yep.
Makes it much easier than to say, I have to, and I'm going to be a bad person if I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we don't want to set ourselves up for failure. Right. So at the end of that 3-week cycle, I kind of look and I'm like, okay, how did I do with this habit? Is this something I need to keep tracking, or is it really become a part of my life that I can take it off of my focus, but I'll still continue doing it? And so in the past, I have had drinking water as one of my habits. I feel like I don't need it on my focus board anymore, because I keep my water next to me. I'm used to it. I drink lots of water, and I don't need to like count ounces anymore, because I know I'm getting enough. If I felt like after 3 weeks, I still wasn't there was a lot of days I was missing, I may choose to just keep it on my board longer, so it would really stay in my present mind for another 3 weeks. So we have that flexibility to kind of decide, like, what do I need? Is this something I need to reassess? Is this habit still important? What, if I struggled with it, why do I need to change something? Maybe it's as simple as I need a new water bottle. I need to keep a pitcher of water closer to my desk so I don't need to walk farther to fill it up. Whatever it is, how can we change our circumstances?
I need to decide that water's tastier than I think it is, because it's just not.
You could put some essential oils in your water and then it would taste yummier. And
she has good answers. So what do the kids think about doing the habit tracking?
They love it. They love it. They love coloring in their little boxes. They have been doing really well with it. And it's made a big difference for them. You know, our whole family takes supplements, but I was the only one that was good at remembering. And now for the past few weeks, like, everybody's been taking their vitamins, which is great, because they see it. And for the kids especially, it's very visual and it's right there on the refrigerator. And so it's a reminder, like, because that's what a lot of it is. They were just forgetting. It's not like taking your vitamins is so hard that you're like, oh, I don't want to do it. Like, they just forgot. They got busy. And even though they were sitting there right there waiting to be taken, they just forgot. And so this is a reminder. And so we'll keep it up, and we'll just I have a tracker that I just print out, and we'll just print out a new one and decide which habits we want to keep and which ones we want to change out, or what we want to maybe make a little harder. So Previously, I had a habit of just trying to exercise 20 minutes each day. Well, that I got really good at. I was really consistent. So that's why I made it harder to close all 3 rings each day. If I had started with close all 3 rings, I probably would have failed. I'd have been like, never mind, this is too hard. I can't do it. But because I had already kind of incrementally built up to it, now I can. Now, maybe I'll make it even harder to close the ring. So I'll keep the habit, but make it change my goals within, my watch app. So we always have that flexibility to build it at whatever pace we're at.
I love that. And I'm sure that's why Apple did it too, though, right? So it's that target to hit.
It is.
Finding ways back to that dopamine, right? Mm-hmm. Finding ways where the bells go off, the whistles blow.
Yep.
And you get that, ooh, that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Look, there's a reason why everything has been gamified, right? It works. Like there's so much science and so much research on how games work in our brains. The people who design this stuff aren't stupid. They know what they're doing. And if we just kind of lean into it a little bit, it actually is really helpful.
So for the parents that are probably going to be watching this on the replay, I got people that love to put on their jammies and have a glass of wine and listen to the replay. They're all sitting out there going, you got your kids to do what? So first off, tell them how old your kids are.
So I have 3 kids. My twins are 7, and then my older son is 10.
So they're still manageable.
They're still manageable. But this is also, I don't want this to sound like I pulled this out of thin air. Like, right. This has been part of our family for years now. So we've been building and these are things we talk about. Like, so if you've never had these conversations with your kids, I wouldn't jump to like, hey, do you think you can eat 5 different colors of fruits and vegetables every day? Because that's probably going too far, right? But maybe they can eat 3 colors. Or maybe it's as simple as let's go food shopping together and see how many different colors you can pick out in the fruits and vegetables section of things that you would eat, right? Like for a lot of kids, they're like, what do you mean fruits and vegetables? I don't eat any of those. So you can walk it back. We've just been doing this for a long time. So it's like you're jumping in, 3/4 of the way through the book. Like you've got to start at the beginning.
So you built a habit of doing habit tracking. Like you built a habit of habits.
We built a habit of habits, and we built a habit of a healthy lifestyle. And a lot of those conversations, scaled down to kid appropriate ways. Like what happens if you don't do these things? And how does your body feel if you don't make these choices? If you don't get a good night's sleep, then you're tired and you have a bad day at school the next day. Did you like that? No, that wasn't fun. Maybe you got in trouble because you weren't a good listener because you were so tired. So we talk about those things and understanding that cause and effect so that I can say to them, this is not going to make your body feel good if you make that choice. And they understand what that means.
The thing that keeps resonating with me as you talk, I never hear you say, and then I bribe my children.
Never.
And it's really interesting because it's back to that, what's the carrot?
Yeah.
So if you take the success of completing the task away from being the carrot, and but you're going to get paid for it, or you're going to get extra video games for it or whatever, then they're not happy about completing the task. They're happy about what they achieved because they completed the task, right?
Yep. And that's I have believed since they were little that food especially should never be a reward or a punishment. So we're very, very conscious, like even if we want to celebrate something, like there was a great success and it's worth celebrating, I don't tie it to food. So it's not like, oh, you were a good listener, now I'm going to go buy you ice cream. because I don't want to create those associations in the brain that like, oh, you were good, so you get to do something that's unhealthy.
It was so funny because I did that with my kid. So mine is almost 20. And I really tried to do that with my kid because when I was young, like I was a straight A student and I got ding dongs for every straight A. Look, really bad, wrapped in silver. And I just remember it, right?
Yep.
And I just really didn't want to do it. And so I did it. Really, it was for great behavior. We, we would cuddle and read a book or whatever it was. Like it was never. And so I was saying that when my kid got a little bit older, and the answer was, I get birthday cake, right? At Christmas, we have amazing food. Like it's in the zeitgeist,
right?
That's like special occasions require special food, like it's just in the zeitgeist. So whatever you can do to minimize that.
Yep. And look, I'm not going to pretend like my kids do eat birthday cake on birthdays.
Yes, they do.
And they do, like you'll see pictures of them on social media eating an ice cream cone. Like they definitely, are not deprived of these things. But I think that they can be two separate things. Like we can enjoy treat foods, but it doesn't need to be because you did something, right? It doesn't need to be because you got a certain grade or because you cooperated or because, I hate, especially, this is such a pet peeve of mine. Oh, you were so good at the dentist. Let's stop on the way home and get you candy. Like, what?
I always love it when the candy, when the dentist would have a lollipop. And I was like, oh, this is just so we need to come back and see you?
Yeah. Oh, you did such a good job listening at the doctor. Let's get you a cupcake. Like, no. So that's just a pet peeve of mine.
Look, I'm a good Italian girl. It was all my mother knew how to do.
There's a reason, why so many people do it is it can be very effective, but I just like to, I'm like, super nerdy and read books about habits for fun. So I just think in terms of the bigger picture. And
I think that it's when it's everything that when you're forming, when it's formative years, it really ends up sort of creeping into your psyche that if I feel bad, I need this. If I feel good, I have to have it. If I so I totally get it. So that's an interesting thing to say too. The inadvertent habits that we create.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. So you can have these great habit trackers because you want to do all this, but that now we're back to, we never have a problem in keeping a bad habit around.
And so a lot of it is replacing or tweaking the bad habits to move them in the direction of the good. So, for example, I gave up caffeinated coffee years ago because I was at a point where if I missed a day of drinking coffee, I would get terrible caffeine withdrawal headaches. And I was like, I can't live like this. Like I can't, this is not a good place to be. So I wanted to give up that habit. So I did it really gradually. And I literally, when I was making my coffee in the morning, I would like mix 3/4 caffeinated coffee with 1/4 decaf. And I slowly, changed the ratio until it was all the way decaf. And now I maybe will drink a cup of decaf like on the weekends or once in a while, but I definitely don't drink coffee every day at all. But I kind of had to do it gradually and replace it with other things. So maybe it's a cup of tea instead, or maybe it's even a cup of hot chocolate. Like you need to kind of work yourself in that direction. I'm not a good cold turkey person. I can't do anything like that. Some people can, I cannot. So I have to do it very incrementally. It was the same thing when I went vegetarian and then I went vegan. I did it like gradually. I cut things out because I couldn't just stop.
I hear you. I always love it when people say that, because I just go, my hamburgers. And I know you have a great solution, but my hamburgers.
And that's the other thing, is we can't compare, right? So the choices
Right.
that are going to be good for one person may not be the right choices for somebody else, right? And I'm not saying that just because I made a choice to create certain habits around my nutrition, that doesn't mean that those are the right habits for everyone.
And now we're back to the thing that we talked about in the beginning too, which is when you're looking at the habits that you want to take on the habits you want to take on.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. Your neighbor's decided to lift weights every morning. Well, okay, because they love it.
Yeah.
Because it's making them, but do you want to lift weights every morning? No. Maybe you want to do yoga.
Right.
Right? So understanding that just because is not the greatest reason to make a habit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, comparison often takes us into dark places. There are a few times when comparison can be valuable, but like most of the time, I don't know a percentage, but a lot of the time, comparison takes us to places that aren't healthy, right? To places that we don't want to go, because we end up feeling badly about ourselves, or we end up feeling like, well, I was only working out 20 minutes a day, but somebody else was doing 40 minutes. And so my 20 minutes just isn't really good enough. Like, no, your 20 minutes is awesome. Celebrate your 20 minutes. So be very careful of comparison when it comes to, and even if you're doing accountability with somebody, it doesn't mean that you have to be doing the same thing, right? You're holding each other accountable to what you said you would do, but it's not that you're both doing the exact same things.
And setting up a reward system that's not a bribe is actually not necessarily a horrible thing. Look, when you were talking about every 3 weeks, you're taking a look, just being able to kind of revel in the fact that you did it, that you achieved it.
Yeah. And I find, again, for me, knowing my body, knowing whatever, 3 weeks is usually enough time to start to feel and notice differences. So all those little choices of like, I don't really feel like drinking any more water, I'm going to drink something else instead. You don't notice it in that one time, but for 3 weeks, try drinking the right amount of water for your body, and you will notice the differences. You will start to see it. And so it's enough time to feel like, oh, this is working. And then once you know it's working, it's easier to keep it up.
I think these are all amazingly great ideas. I love the fact that there's concrete strategies to put them into play, and just knowing that it's about taking those small bites of the apple, not trying to eat the whole thing at once.
That's exactly it. Just any little things that we can do to move that needle forward. And we have talked a lot about health related habits, but you could apply these to relationships. Let's say that you want to work on the relationship with your spouse or the relationship with your kids. Maybe your habit is that you're going to read to your kid every night if you haven't been doing that. Or maybe the habit is that you and your partner are going to turn off your phones for an hour before you go to bed so you can just spend time together without technology. I don't want people to think this only applies in the realm of nutrition and exercise and stress management, right? This can apply to literally any aspect of your life. It could apply to your finances. Maybe it's,
that's huge. Maybe it's I'm gonna save $10 a week.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe it's I'm going to delete the Amazon app from my phone so I stop randomly buying things I don't need.
I really think you have cameras in my house.
Maybe I'm projecting a little bit. Maybe that's something that right. But we can take it. But once you sort of learn how to do it, then you can do it with any part of your life.
And really giving yourself the grace to appreciate when you've shifted.
Yep.
And I, just the idea, what the book Slight Edge, I love that. I'm going to get it because I think that concept that it might seem little in the moment, but that's only in the moment.
Right. Right.
That achievement. I mean, when you think about it, and this is probably, when you think of, like, I remember waiting for the time my child was going to take their first step.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, and it was like such a monumental thing that now it's like, okay, you walk like everywhere.
Right. But think about it. In all of that time that you're waiting for your child to take the first step, probably fell down like a lot of times. And never once does that baby fall down and say, nope, never mind. Walking is overrated. Just carry me everywhere. I'm not even going to bother anymore. Right? Like, they just get up and try again. And somewhere along the way, we lose that.
It is really crazy what happens when you just decide, I'm going to stop now.
Yeah.
But there's, it's not like you're checking out. I hope. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
So there's so much more that's achievable.
Mm-hmm.
It's just understanding how to be grateful and gracious and excited about every achievement.
Yep.
My kid had a couple of really great years at college, like starting his fourth semester. And it's so interesting because, yes, I'm thrilled, but we keep having this conversation. The thing that I'm the most proud of, the thing that I love the most is that the classes are hard and interesting. And everything about it is, he's really picking the stuff that's really challenging, him and getting it all to grow in the right direction. But the thing that's amazing to me is how much effort is going into it. Mm-hmm. And there was like one class where it was kind of a struggle to get out of the gate and never gave up.
Yeah.
And it ended up with a great grade in the class, but look, it was a struggle to get there. And to me, that's the class that I'm most proud of.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's like, if we're talking about, parenting gifts that we can give to our children, teaching them how to embrace failure as a learning tool is probably one of the best ones that we could possibly send our kids off into the world with. There's a really famous story of Sarah Blakely, who's the founder of Spanx.
Yep.
And she's told this in a number of interviews and speeches and whatever. But when she was a kid, at the dinner table, her dad would always go around and ask everybody how they had failed that day. And he really made a big deal about celebrating their failures. And because that's how you learn. Right. And I love that. And I think it's so important. And one of my kids especially really struggles with failure. Like, it's intrinsic in her personality. She just wants to be good at everything. And it's really hard for her. And it's something we work on so consciously. Because if as adults, we know how to fail forward, right? Like fail up, then we can do anything, right? We can create whatever habits we need to create. We can do whatever we need to do in our business, in our health, in our finances, in our relationships, whatever it might be. Because failure is going to be a part of life, and how we cope with it is everything.
I think the best thing I ever heard is that, when you start karate, when you start gymnastics, they don't teach you how to do the skill first. They teach you how to fall.
It's true. I am a former gymnastics coach. I can say 100% that is the very first lesson. How to fall.
This is how you're going to fall.
Yep.
So that you don't get hurt and you can get back up and you can try again.
Yep.
Because guess what? Everybody's going to fall.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's what this all comes down to, right? It's you were trying to do the same thing over and over and over again. And along the way, you're going to mess up. It's going to happen. So you just get back.
I know that I promised you that I would keep us to an hour because you have kids you have to pick up, and I am totally on track with that. I am so happy that you came and played. I'm so happy that you came and shared all this information with us. You are an amazing resource. I want to make sure that people know that you can find Rachel at facebook.com/family, and you can reach her at her email.
Yes.
So Rachel at forwardfamilyessentials.com. So if you have questions about getting your life on track, maybe even getting rid of some of those toxins or getting some amazing stuff together to help you. So tell me, because I always forget, this is my favorite thing, that it's deep blue, right?
Yeah.
So there's like this magic stuff. And if you've never heard of deep blue, but you have a pain somewhere, like joints that hurt, or like, talk to her. Seriously.
Yeah.
Just talk to her. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so thank you again, Rachel. I'm so happy that you were here.
For having me. This was so much fun. I will chat with you anytime. I could talk to you for hours.
Yay! It was so good. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to do it again.
For sure.
And for everybody who watched us live, thank you very much. For everybody who's watching us on the replay, we are waiting for your comments. Rachel's going to check in. I'm going to check in. Just know, as always, I love you all for being here. However you got here, I hope you all have a really great week. We'll be back next Tuesday. It is a brand new year, brand new stuff to talk about, brand new possibilities. Embrace those possibilities. Give yourself grace, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.